let's take a look at this case where we have a multiple way if else statement. So in this case, we're simulating that we're giving a letter grade to a score, and then let's say that if the score is greater than 90, then technically you display that the grade is A. But if it's less than 90, then you will check if it's greater than 80, and then if it's true, then you will give a grade of B, and then you continue, right? So greater than 70, you give a grade of C, and then you continue with your program. uh, More than 60, grade of D, and then if not, then it's gonna be an F, and then you continue with your program, right? So you can come up with diagrams like this in order to come up with your multiple way if else statements. The way they will look in the program or in your code, it will be something like this. Notice that we have our if, the first if, checking if our score is 90 or more. So in our case, we're gonna suppose that it's 70. So this is gonna be false. So if it's false, it's gonna skip this line, okay, and then we'll go to 80. Gonna check if it's less greater than 80. It's gonna be false, okay, and then basically now it's gonna check if it's greater than 70. So this condition is true. So that means that the next statement is gonna get executed, which is gonna be a grade of C, and then it's gonna skip the if block, right? So why don't you try putting this in Eclipse and see if you can simulate something like that. Okay. So one of the things that you have to be aware is that the else statement is gonna match with the closest if, right? So in this case, we don't have the proper indentation, so you can see that in here, you might think that this else statement is matching with this if, and that's not the case, right? So this is the correct indentation, and you can see that these two match, right? So this is a common error in Eclipse, right? So, or sorry, a common error in Java. Okay, so you have to make sure that these two guys match in there. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at basically calculating random numbers. Okay, so that's one thing that I'm gonna just start a new program in Eclipse if I get my cursor somewhere. Got it. Okay, so here I will go to chapter 3. I'm just gonna start a new class. That way you guys can see me do that. New class. It's a little slow. Let me pause in here. Okay, and now I'm back. Just call this guy test random. Okay, I'm gonna have a public and main. So let's say finish. Okay, so here I'm just gonna create a variable. I'm gonna call it double first, and then I'm just gonna say random number, and then I'm gonna say that this is equal to math dot, and then here I'm just gonna use the math dot random, and then I'm just gonna display. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna display the number, and then I'm gonna say system dot out dot print line, and then between quotation mark my number is, and then here I'm just gonna add the random number. Okay, so I'm just gonna here do semicolon. I'm missing something. Oh, I need a dot. Okay, I'm just gonna print this or run this. So notice that my random number just keeps changing, right? Down there. You can see it here. Okay, so this is a number that is basically between 0 and 0.99, less than 1. It never reaches 1. Okay, so if I want to have, let's say, a random number between like 0 and 10, I can just take this guy and multiply this by 10. Okay. So now here you can see that this is just a random number between 0 and 9.999, less than 10. Okay, so what about if I want integer numbers? Okay, so I'm just gonna declare here integer random number. Okay, so here you can cast that variable, right? So you can say integer and then take your random number. Okay, so now instead of printing the random number, let's print the integer random number. Notice how I follow my naming convention. Okay, so let's see what happens now. Okay, so you see here I have random numbers. The thing is that this guy will never be 10. We will be between 0 and 9. Okay, so how do I make it to be 10? Okay, so one thing that you can do, you can add 1 to that. Okay, or let's try something better. Let's say display numbers or calculate random numbers between 5 and 14. Okay, so 5 is the lowest number. Okay, and we know that my integer here, or math done random, the lowest number is going to be 0, right? So one thing that you can do, let's get a minimum. Okay, so here let's do this minimum or lower number is equal to 5, and then high number, let's declare this, is equal to high number is equal to 14. Okay. Now to calculate my integer random number, I need to do the lower number. Okay, that's the lowest that I can get. Lower number plus, now let's take our math done random and change this completely. Math.random. Okay. So here the lower number will be 5. Okay, so if math.random the lowest is 0, it will be 5 plus 0. But then I want my highest to be 14. So the difference between 5 and 14 is 9. Okay, so here you will have to multiply this guy times the difference of the high number minus the lower number. Okay, I need my spacing here to make sure that I can read this. Okay, so let's go to a drawing board. Okay, so just gonna use abbreviations here, but lower number, so low is 5, high is 14. Okay, so if I do my random number is equal to 5 plus my random, okay, that goes from 0 to 0.99, and I multiply that by 14 minus 5, which is 9. Notice that this will go from 5, right? So my range, the lower one will be 5 plus 0, and the highest one will be 5 plus 0.9 times 9, which is basically 8.1. Okay, so this is 5 plus 8.1. Okay, so here, if you take the integer, right, because you are casting this, technically it goes from 8.1 to 8. So there is something wrong here, right? It's because 5 plus 8 is 13. It will never be 14. Okay, and this is one way of double checking what you're doing in Java, right? You need to understand the numbers. Okay, so 14 minus 5 is wrong. You need to add 1 to this. That way your highest number will get to be 9. Okay. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, because then your lowest could be 0, so 0 times 9 is 0, giving you 5. But then your highest one will be 9, or here, right? So we have to go back to Eclipse, and then this is basically plus 1. Okay, so now let's run this. So we got a 14, we got a 5, we got a 10, we got a 5, we got a 7, right? And you will never get anything below 5 or anything above 14. Okay, so hopefully this helped. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.